The price of technology is breaking, and most people still don't realize it. Not because the changes are subtle, but because the shock hasn't fully reached everyday products yet. What we're seeing now is only the first wave, and it's happening deep inside the hardware supply chain, far from store shelves and consumer headlines. Over the past months, the price of memory, RAM, has exploded. Not by 10%, not by 50%. In many cases, prices have multiplied by 3, 4, even 5 times. Modules that cost a few €100 recently are now selling close to 1,000, sometimes more. And this isn't a temporary glitch, a rumor, or speculation driven by social media panic. It's structural. At first, only a specific group noticed. Gamers, developers, engineers, content creators, people who rely on powerful machines. They sounded the alarm early. Most people ignored them, assuming this was another niche problem, another PC hardware drama that wouldn't affect the wider population. That assumption is wrong. Every modern device depends on memory. Phones, consoles, cameras, cars, smart appliances, medical equipment, industrial machines. Memory is everywhere. When memory prices rise aggressively, the entire technology ecosystem feels it. This is not about gaming. It's about how modern society functions. And this time, the cause isn't war, logistics disruption, or a factory accident. The cause is artificial intelligence. There are very few companies on Earth capable of producing advanced memory at scale. Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron. For decades, these companies supplied consumer markets. PCs, laptops, smartphones, consoles. That balance has now shifted. In 2025, selling memory to consumers simply doesn't make economic sense anymore. AI data centers consume memory in volumes that completely dwarf consumer demand. Thousands of servers, each filled with massive amounts of high-capacity memory, running non-stop. Training models serving inference, processing data around the clock. One single data center can absorb more memory than entire national consumer markets. From a business perspective, the choice is obvious. Why sell small quantities to millions of individual consumers? Deal with logistics, retail margins, and price sensitivity when you can sell everything instantly to a handful of hyperscale clients with virtually unlimited budgets? The financial data confirms it. For companies like NVIDIA, consumer products now represent a shrinking share of revenue. The overwhelming majority comes from AI infrastructure and data centers. Memory manufacturers are following the same logic. Production is not slowing down. It is being redirected. Less memory for consumers, more memory for AI. Major hardware manufacturers have already adapted to this reality. Large laptop and device brands are stockpiling RAM months, sometimes years in advance. Not to protect consumers from price increases, but to make sure they can still ship products at all. This creates a secondary effect that worsens the situation. When corporations buy millions of units at once, the consumer market dries up. Scarcity increases. Prices rise even further. Then, fear enters the system. Consumers start panic buying memory at absurd prices, not because they want to, but because they believe things will be even worse later. This panic accelerates scarcity, which pushes prices even higher. A feedback loop forms, and once it starts, it's very hard to stop. Some consumer-facing brands are already disappearing as a result. Micron has pulled back well-known consumer memory lines, not because demand is low, but because enterprise demand is vastly more profitable. From a corporate perspective, consumers are no longer the priority. They are marginal. And this doesn't stop with RAM. SSD prices are already rising. Flash memory relies on the same production ecosystem, the same factories, the same allocation logic. What happens to RAM today happens to storage tomorrow. The timeline is predictable. Graphics cards are temporarily protected, but not because companies care about consumers. They're protected by long-term contracts signed years ago, fixed pricing agreements that haven't expired yet. For now. When the next generations of GPUs launch, under new contracts with new memory pricing realities, the impact will become unavoidable. Prices will adjust to the new supply chain logic, not to consumer expectations. Many people believe that if the AI bubble bursts, everything will go back to normal. Prices will fall. Supply will return. That assumption is dangerous. Production has already shifted away from consumer formats. Factories are being optimized for enterprise demand. Data center memory is not interchangeable with consumer hardware. Even if financial markets cool down, production capacity does not instantly revert. Industrial systems don't pivot overnight. The structure has changed. There's also a less visible consequence, the secondhand market. Used computers are disappearing, not because people stopped selling them, but because memory itself has become valuable. Entire machines are now bought simply to extract RAM. Some sellers unknowingly sell systems far below their real value. Others exploit the confusion. This distorts pricing, availability, and trust across the market. Beyond hardware, there is a deeper, more strategic implication. As personal computing becomes more expensive, ownership becomes harder. The alternative becomes increasingly attractive. Cloud computing, subscriptions, remote access, renting performance instead of owning it. Why buy a machine if you can rent access to one? Why invest thousands in hardware if a monthly subscription gives you good enough performance? This transition has been pushed quietly for years. Software moved first, then games, then storage. Now, hardware scarcity accelerates the process, not by force, by economics. And this is the real shift, because when ownership disappears, control follows, dependence increases, costs become recurring, options narrow. The future being built is not one of personal machines, it's a future of terminals, access points, and subscriptions. A world where computation happens elsewhere, owned by someone else, priced dynamically. Unless production capacity expands massively, which takes years, prices will not return to previous levels, even if demand fluctuates, even if markets cool. This is not a spike. It's a reallocation of resources, from people to machines that train other machines. That is the cost of the AI era, not tomorrow, now. This transmission ends here. The next one is already forming. Stay aware and subscribe to Remain in the Signal.